Chapter 14 continued. The next morning, I didn't send Ma a smiley face text like I normally did. But that's because Uncle Tony took off work, something that never happened, so that he could fill in for Momley and take Ma to the hospital dialysis unit to get her blood cleaned. And because Momley was in the same hospital, I convinced Uncle Tony to take me and Maddie with him. It was super early, like around 6:30 in the morning, when we left the house and piled into Uncle Tony's SUV. There were papers all over the back seat, half-full cups of coffee in the cup holders, and a few French fries, hard yellow twigs that must have been there forever on the passenger seat, wedged between the cushions. His SUV didn't smell like clean. It didn't have that nose-itchy scent that we're used to in Momley's car. It smelled poisonous, but not the good kind. When we pulled up in front of Ma's house, our other house, Maddie ran to the door like usual. Once, Maddie, I reminded her. I know, she shot over her shoulder, pushing the doorbell. Coming, Ma said through the wood. The sound of locks unlocking. Ma opened the door and pushed on the screen door, which I held open so Maddie could get her hug, which was extra, extra long this morning. Then I gave Ma a kiss on the cheek and wheeled her out to the car. SUV. Uh-oh. I hadn't thought about the fact that Tony didn't have a regular car, a car like Momley's, one that Ma could hoist herself into. So as I pulled up the passenger side, Uncle Tony hopped out of the SUV and came around to help. Hey, Bev, he said, opening the passenger door. Hey, Toon, Ma said, looking up at him. She reached up, took a chunk of his arm between her fingers, and pinched. Ouch, Uncle Tony yelped. That's for taking so long to call me yesterday. Ma growled. And by the way, you look terrible in the morning. You don't look so great yourself, he gave it right back, smirking. Yeah, but I got dirty blood. What's your excuse? Ma grinned like one. She has the best smile. My wife is in the hospital, Uncle Tony deadpanned. His face changed, and Ma knew that even though she was trying to lighten the situation, the joke was over. Sorry, Tony. I don't mean to be insensitive. I'm so sorry this had to happen to Emily, of all people. Nothing to be sorry for. It's just a concussion and a broken arm, but it could have been worse. Uncle Tony glanced at Maddie. Ma did too. We had to go. No time for jokes, and no time for tears, because Ma had to get to dialysis, and we had to make sure we got to the hospital before Momley went into surgery. First, we had to get Ma in the SUV, and when I say we, I really mean Uncle Tony. Come on, let's get you up here, he said, lifting her from the chair like a baby. He set her in the seat the same way my dad used to do to me. I gotta admit, it was weird seeing Ma being lifted up, being held like that. And he lifted her out of the SUV just as carefully when we got to the hospital. I already pulled a chair from the back and unfolded it, ready to roll. First stop, Emily's room, Ma commanded. But we made a pit stop in the dialysis unit first. It was a room with a bunch of people sitting around hooked up to machines. Some were missing a foot or a leg, just like Ma. Others looked pretty regular. It was like a blood cleaning club, complete with magazines and newspapers, but most people were looking up at the TV screen showing one of the early morning shows, like Good Morning America. They had some lady on there demonstrating how to cut a pineapple into the shape of an owl. Shoot, by the time I do all that, I could have just ate the doggone fruit, a woman wearing a blue hat was saying as we came further into the room. Her silver hair was stuffed under it, wisps sticking out the sides like she was hiding an old cat up there. She noticed my mother. Hey, Bev. Hey, Teresa. Then Ma spoke to everyone else in the room. Hey, y'all. These are my babies, Patty and Maddie. Everyone did that weird, whiny thing grown-ups do when they meet kids they've been hearing about. I'm surprised one of them didn't ask me how track was going. They knew I ran. Both my mothers talked too much. This is my brother-in-law, Tony, Emily's husband. I learned that when the whiny thing isn't just for kids. I learned then that the whiny thing isn't just for kids, but also for adults that have been hearing about, y'all know Emily's here? She's upstairs. She got in a car accident yesterday. No, Teresa moaned, in shock. She's okay, Uncle said, doing the calm down hands. He gave my mother the really face. That's the face you give people when you want to say, you really just gonna air my business out in the streets like that? This is Beverly Jones, the queen of the air out. She's okay, but she needs your prayers anyway, Momley said. They all nodded, except for one old man who had nodded off. Anyway, I'm gonna go up and see her real quick and then be back. Save my seat. The Lady Teresa nodded and patted the seat next to hers. When we got upstairs to Momley's room, Uncle Tony went in first. Good morning, he said softly. Hey, sweetie. Momley was sitting up, spooning clumps of oatmeal from a bowl. Uncle Tony gave her a smooch. Who you got with you? Maddie crept in. And me. Oh, hey, sweeties. Then her voice quickly zipped from sweet to sour. Tony, why aren't they in school? Don't worry, they'll make it there. Even if I gotta roll them there myself, Ma said, rolling into the room, purposely making an entrance. Beverly Jones, the queen of entrances. She planned the whole thing in the elevator on the way up. Momley laughed. Hey, Bev. Ma wheeled up next to her bed, grabbed her hand, the one connected to the unbroken arm. How you feeling, Em? I'm fine. You ain't that fine if my knucklehead brother-in-law had to come pick me up, she said. She then leaned in and said, just loud enough for all of us to hear, his SUV is filthy. Momley closed-mouthed laughed. I know. Hey, Uncle Tony squawked. I mean, it got you here, didn't it? Yep, it sure did get me here. It also got me a two-year-old stale French fry stuck to my butt. At this, Momley couldn't contain herself and let out a belly laugh. It was so loud that it caught me off guard. I don't know if I've ever seen her laugh like that. She also seemed super rested, just like chillin' in the hospital. Sounds like the morning is starting off on the right foot. Another man's voice came from the door. It was Dr. Lancaster. He came into the room and shook Uncle Tony's hand. Dr. Lancaster, this is Beverly Jones. Ma turned her chair, shook the doctor's hand. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jones. Then he stood by the head of the bed. And how are you today, young lady? He said to Momley. Hanging in there. My head feels a little better, that's for sure. The doctor nodded. And you all? He addressed me and Maddie. Good. Great, he put his hands together. So, Emily, I'm going to give you the rundown of what's going to happen. In a few minutes, a young man named Terrence will arrive to transport you to the operating room. I'll be there waiting along with two others, Dr. Morris and Dr. Fisk. Nice folks, talented surgeons. There will also be an anesthesiologist there named Patricia. The doctor paused and pointed at me. Patty, right? I nodded. Short for Patricia? Patina. I was used to people doing that. Ah, Patina. That's a pretty name. Different. Thanks. Dr. Lancaster, can we make sure Patricia knocks me out completely? Mom asked. I don't want to feel anything. Dr. Lancaster laughed. That's the plan. And once you're out cold, which will take all of 7 seconds, we'll get you there and fix you right up. And then she can come home? Maddie asked, eager. Dr. Lancaster squatted. Not quite. We need to watch her overnight to make sure there's no funny business. But I don't see why she can't go home tomorrow. How's that sound? Maddie nodded. Well, I'll be here to get you as soon as we get word, Uncle Tony said to Momley. Me too, I said. Momley shot me down fast. Oh, no, you won't, because you have to run. I don't have... You do, Momley insisted. You're going to go to your track meet where you should be. There's no use in you coming back up here to worrying about me. I looked at Ma for a bailout, but all she said was, "Don't look at me, you heard her." "Track, huh?" Dr. Lancaster asked. "Yeah, she's a fast one. Got them legs from me," Ma shined. "Absolutely," Momley double-teamed. "That's terrific," the doctor said. "My grandson's a runner. I've never seen him race, and honestly, he doesn't strike me as fast. But he tells me he runs, so—" Dr. Lancaster shrugged, checked his watch. "Terence should be here," he muttered, just as we heard a knock at the door. "And there he is," Dr. Lancaster grinned. "The kid is like clockwork." Terence, who I just need to say was 50 times better than any boy on the defenders team or at any Barnaby Middle or ever, let Momley know it was time for me, Maddie, Uncle Tony, and Ma to say goodbye. "Send us all a text when you make it out of surgery," I said, ironing the wrinkles out of my khaki skirt with my palms. "A smiley face, just a little something," Ma suggested, followed by hugs, kisses, and of course, a prayer. Ma told Terence he better bow his head. And then we were on our way back to the elevator, but to different floors. Momley to the operating room, and us to the dialysis unit. Uncle Tony would come back for Ma in 3 hours, and me and Maddie were back in Uncle Tony's dirtmobile, headed to school. At Chester, Uncle Tony walked us to the office to get our lateness excused, and then I wandered down the empty hall towards locker 172. I had already missed most of first period, but grabbed my English book anyway. By the time I got to Mr. Winston's class, he was wrapping up his usual theatrics in a week-long lesson, explaining the final stanza of the poem. "When can their glory fade? Oh, the wild charge they made. All the worlds wondered. Honor the charge they made. Honor the light parade." "Noble 600, he recited, his voice breathy, like he was having the most poetic asthma attack of all time. "Is that not beautiful?" Everyone just kind of stared at Mr. Winston, which to most folks would mean, leave us alone. But not to teachers. To teachers, when no one looks interested, that means ask more questions. "Can anyone tell me what they think this means?" asked Mr. Winston now. The whole class became mannequins, which is the standard move for, "Please don't call on me." But for some reason, even though I was late to class, I was feeling bold. Funny thing is, even though I thought Mr. Winston was a weirdo, I actually kind of got his poem, mainly because of church. See, it was that one Bible verse, which is actually like reading one long poem, that Pastor Carter said all the time. All the time. "Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." It was his go-to, and whenever he said it, the whole church bugged out. And this light barrage poem started on the same way, charging into the valley of death. So yeah, I got it. Got it so much, I even raised my hand. "Patina," Mr. Winston called on me, surprised. I put my pen top in my mouth, chewed on it for a second, then answered. "It's basically saying that their bravery should be honored, that they did what they had to do, and they did it together, even though it seemed almost impossible to win." The bell rang. "Exactly," Mr. Winston said over the clatter of chairs scraping the floor and backpacks zipping. "Now onward to enjoy your weekends, my noble 600. In math, I spent the entire time thinking about how Momley's arm was probably at an obtuse angle when it broke, maybe 230 degrees. That's if it snapped backwards, which made the most sense to me. I also thought about the 180-degree turn I was going to make as soon as I saw TNT. Let them know that I ain't going to be buffing the floors by myself anymore. That I ain't no junk. The floor being the Frida assignment, of course. And maybe math actually was good for something. Somehow, convincing yourself to stand up to hair flippers and fake flippers, understanding bone-breaking angles, and estimating how long it would take to eat 300 tacos. Lunchtime. Friday's menu, tacos. Pick your meat, chicken, beef, or shrimp. Pick your shell, hard or soft. Cheese, shredded or liquid. Lettuce, tomato, sour cream, salsa. 3 tacos, $4.25. Everybody's favorite. I didn't do no lunchroom laps today. Instead, I just got my food and headed to the table where Becca and Macy and Sasha and the others were sitting. The table I'd been sitting at 2 days in a row. Well, except for yesterday. I slipped in next to Sasha, lifted one of my tacos, and bit it in half. So what did I miss yesterday, Becca? I asked. I was prepping to deliver the blow that I, Patina Jones, was done being the Frida leader. I was sick of it, and I didn't put up with this on my track team, so I was definitely not putting up with it at this school. To do. Put TNT on notice that the Frida freebies were a wrap. Dunzo. Becca, who was holding her taco like it was a grenade about to explode hot sauce and lettuce, widened her eyes. Oh, I was about to tell you. Miss Lanford changed the rules, she said. Sauce was dribbling out the end of the taco and onto her hand. Newbie. Change the rules? Yeah, she's not grading us all together anymore. We are all responsible for different parts of the project. That way it's fair, you know? Becca explained. She put down her taco and dabbed a napkin to her hand. I think it's better this way. Then she flashed a sneaky grin. Me too, Becca. Me too, I thought. But there was something about that look on her face that made me want to thank her. Made me think that she had something to do with it. Anyway, this was great news. And it made Friday even better. And I don't know if it was the combination of all of it or what, but I was suddenly feeling, I don't know, like I had some kind of magical thing happening to me. This must be how Maddie felt all the time. Strong in a special way. Once I got to history class, guess who spoke to me first? Guess. You get 2 chances and 1 clue. They got almost the same name. Hi, Patty, Taylor said as I came to the room. Caught me off guard. Hey, Taylor. I didn't put no funk in it. Not even when TT spoke. No need to be mean to them. Plus, I understood what it felt like to want to fit in. Or at least to feel like you fit out. I don't know if I would have been fronting like them, but I get it. Welcome back, Miss Jones, Miss Lanford said as I sat down. I'm sure your group members will be happy to see you, especially since I've just adjusted the rules. Becca told me. I tried to keep from grinning. Good. You will still have to give a group presentation, but now each of you will have to cover a specific part of the life of your subject. I got word that not everyone has been pulling their weight, so I wanted to make sure I'm giving fair grades. I was psyched. I'm talking totally gassed about this. But once we got into our groups, I discovered the other girls had already chosen which parts they wanted. TT chose Frida's love affair with Diego. No surprise there, though judging by Taylor's face, there had been some drama over that choice. Taylor, I guess because her first choice was taken, decided to go with Frida's death. Becca was going to talk about the art, which I would have loved to talk about since I was the one who had been doing so much research on it, but it was okay. Becca was cool. So that left me to talk about Frida's childhood, which, to be honest, I was fine with because I already knew so much about it, including the newest thing I'd learned the night before, that after Frida was diagnosed with polio, which messed up her right leg, giving her a limp, her father encouraged her to play sports, soccer, even wrestling, even though girls didn't really do that back then. He thought it would be good for her leg, but turns out what it was really good for was her confidence. And I kept thinking about that, not just in class, but for the rest of the day. that that's kind of what running was to me. A way to shut people up. A way to, I guess, sometimes even shut myself up. Just turn it all off. Leave everything. All the hurting stuff, the unregular stuff that seems so regular to me, in the dust.